Thank you, family, for tuning in to another episode of Living Your Life Without Limits, a show about motivation, education, and inspiration. I'm Shannon Jackson, the People's Nurse. And if you're not already a subscriber, make sure you click the button beneath and subscribe to Living Your Life Without Limits, or check us out on one of our audio podcast platforms. In today's society, finding your voice can be very difficult, especially when you are going through any form of sickness or hardship. Feelings of frustration, guilt, and embarrassment can often create an inability to communicate or verbally express oneself. However, your crisis can be used as a motivator to help you go forward, knowing that your voice has the power to change your situation. Today's episode is titled Finding Your Voice Through a Crisis. I want to take a moment to educate and bring public awareness about National Aphasia Awareness Month. So what is aphasia? Aphasia is an impairment of language affecting the production or comprehension of speech and the ability to read or write while leaving intelligence unaffected. People with aphasia may have different strengths and weaknesses in their speech patterns. Sometimes these patterns are labeled as other types of aphasia. Aphasia is always due to brain injury, most commonly from a stroke, particularly in older individuals. But brain injuries resulting in aphasia may also arise from head trauma, brain tumors, or infections. A person with aphasia may speak in short or incomplete sentences, speak in sentences that don't make sense, substitute one word for another or one sound for another, speak unrecognizable words, have difficulty finding words. They may not understand other people's conversation. They may not understand what they read. They may write sentences that don't make sense. Receiving a stroke diagnosis that leaves you aphasic can make anyone feel depressed and without hope. However, that was not the case for my upcoming guest, Doreen Mendez-Sierra. Doreen was a successful, strategic, and creative business technology executive who was multilingual until a health crisis happened on June 2nd, 2012. At the age of 48, she suffered a catastrophic double stroke, leaving her to be aphasic. However, that did not stop Doreen. She became relentless in her journey into aphasia advocacy. And now, after 10 years, she is the Vice President of Community Outreach, Education, and Strategic Alliance for the National Aphasia Awareness Organization. And now, family, I am honored to have my special guest with me today, none other than Doreen Mendez-Sierra. Doreen, thank you so much for being a guest on Living Your Life Without Limits today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be on your show, and your crew is amazing. Thank you.
Well, we are honored to have you here, but especially myself, having read your story and wanting to get into it today. I just from one professional woman to another, I salute you. And I'm excited for us to talk about this. So June is the month of aphasia awareness. And I know that this subject matter is very personal to you. So talk to us about how this began for you, and were you ever aware of how aphasia can affect someone from having a stroke?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity again, Shannon. It's this, like you say, it is the month of aphasia. And last month it was the Stroke Awareness Month also.
Yes.
So this is our season to bring awareness. Well, my story is, it's a big surprise, but I was aware about strokes, but I didn't know what comes after. When you know that you have a stroke, somebody had a stroke, you know, you think it's a heart attack. Nobody really thinks that it's your brain. And so in my case, I had a massive double stroke. So it was ischemic and also hemorrhagic. And after that, I have aphasia now. And so it's been a long journey, 10 years now this month. And it's been harrowing from the beginning, but it gets better over time. And so in my case, and so the thing about strokes and aphasia is that everyone is different, just like every brain is unique. The same thing as for aphasia and your stroke too. So, this was 10 years ago, June 2nd, I got up in the morning, do my, brush my teeth. And all of a sudden, as I feel that there is earthquake. So it was moving, and thank God I was home, number one. And number two, I was with my children. So my children, I screamed immediately and they came running. They were sleeping very early in the morning. Usually strokes happen early in the morning. Mm-hmm. That's another test for everyone to know. The last thing I remember was telling my daughter to clean the dishes. Right when they took me to sit, and I told my daughter, call 911 and clean the dishes. And so, and after that, I went in a coma for a long time. And so my kids were teenagers at the time. My daughter was in college, in her first year of college, and my son was starting high school, and I'm a single mom. So it was a very trying time. You have a stroke and you think, you know, okay, I'm in the hospital and slowly but surely I'll get better. In my case, I was in a coma for a long time, and I was intubated also, because my daughters didn't want me to let go. So I was there for a while, and finally I came out of it. And when I came through, I didn't know what was aphasia. Therapists came through, but we didn't know. My daughter doesn't know, my son didn't know. But we had friends who came to the rescue for my kids. And those friends followed through, you know, what was happening. And so with that, we finally had an opportunity to first of all, that's another thing. When you have a stroke, you have to have, there's a big critical time that you have to rest. Your brain needs to shut down for a while. And aside from my coma, you know, and so also had to understand what's happening. So when you have a stroke, you're in a cloud. It's a very like a hazy environment that you trying to make sense, but I just wanted to sleep for a long time. I did that, and that was important because I lost so many neurons in the brain. So
yes. It can be very, very challenging coming out of a stroke. I've done a lot of recovery with different clients that have suffered from strokes. And as you mentioned there, and I mentioned it a little bit prior to you coming on, there are various types of not only strokes, but aphasia comes in different forms and how it manifests itself with their condition. But one of the things, Doreen, that I found very fascinating, I wanted to know, our show is about motivation, education, and inspiration. And what I found that was very good to have you be on this show is how prior to the stroke, first of all, you were 48 years old, in some cases in your prime, a little bit over the prime because people consider it about 40, 41, but successful, thriving in your career and multilingual, where you could speak several languages. And then after having suffered a stroke, to no longer be able to have communication or struggle with that, how did you find the strength to overcome that?
Well, it's the thing about aphasia is that in the beginning, you just have to make sense slowly but surely. In my case, I had an opportunity to, with my children, they were just finding online all of the resources, what was it called? It's called aphasia specifically. And I went through different phases of aphasia, of my type of aphasia. And I was locked in after the stroke and everything. I was still locked in. I could not even speak at all. It was a mute like that. And so that took almost 3 years to actually get out of that process with therapy, a lot of speech pathology.
Speech therapy, yes.
Exactly. And also with, in my situation was that I'm not bilingual, I was a polyglot. I speak 7 languages, and those 7 languages, I was not able to speak my own primary language, which is English, number 1, and then Spanish. And so the doctors or the therapists would always say, the only way you're gonna get out of this situation is focusing on one language. But this is difficult because you can say that, but the brain is the one who's, doing so every time I'm going to say, oh, hi, Sharon, how are you, Shannon? And I'll be saying, hey, Joe, what's up? It comes completely backward. All the constant crash. It took me almost 3 years to actually speak English. Spanish, I was able to do it. I use different techniques to do that. And also the time, it was because I used to work in as a professional environment, I'm very, very, very organized for my time. Time is minute by minute was my life. And so I tried to do my schedule like in little excerpts of time. And so it would be maybe in the morning or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would only in the morning, very early when I get up in the morning, I had to listen to music, specific music, because music would be the way that it will take the whole brain to connect. So that was number 1. And after I finally got English, I did with Spanish. Everything was Spanish in the same regimen. that was my way. But and so that was other exercise is key. And I've mentioned in other outlets what I've also said, though, is so important for exercise and do breathing techniques that help for the brain.
Yes.
And this, everything that I always say, it works for everyone. So also doing, when I actually do exercise, which is simple, it was just walking. So just trying to walk, for my balance first, and then to actually trying to listen to music while I'm working, or reading on the signs as I'm walking out loud, very, very specific. And now I can speak, but it's been 10 years though, I have to say. It wasn't
wonderful. And it takes time, and it lets us know that not only healing is a process, but transitioning and restoration is a process. So it brings me to one of my final questions is, first of all, congratulations to you on your recent appointment or alliance with the National Aphasia Organization, and being the Vice President of Community Outreach, Education, and Strategic Alliance. I know you have gone through a very, very difficult transition, but have been able to use that as a motivating factor and go hard in on advocacy. Tell me about your role in the organization, and how is it helping to educate or impact communities or support them in prevention or in resources? I started this path and journey immediately, as an advocate, immediately the minute I could walk, that moment I had to tell people, this couldn't happen to just everyone. I mean, how can it just happen? Aphasia, stroke and aphasia can happen to anybody at any age. Correct.
It doesn't matter where you are from or how young or old, or that's another thing. So I actually started my advocacy early on, trying to make sense of what was happening and talking with people, not just therapists, but the people and their caretakers that also, they're lost. Everyone is lost every time this happens in every family. Families, or like me, I was a single mom, and my kids didn't know. They were the ones who do the research for me. And so slowly but surely I got more in depth. Even though I couldn't speak, I still wanted to be in the presence of those that are making decisions for other people that also have aphasia. So when I finally came back to New York, which is my home, I went to my alma mater in Lehman College. And in Lehman College, this is CUNY system in New York. I actually, there is a wonderful doctor, therapist. Her name is Mira Goral, and she allowed me to take the summers doing drills for aphasia, my type of aphasia. And it was a breakthrough. And in the breakthrough, I was able to go into the full Spanish, do the same drill sit, and I was able to speak again finally. So that was one thing. Once I did that, then I went to other places in NYU, there with Dr. Elizabeth Galleta with in Burke Rehab is in Westchester. Also, I mean, where's Dr. Barbara Kessler in Manhattan with Steve Kessler were the catalyst to become an advocate in New York. And so, so I decided to find, if I'm going to be an advocate, I want to reach people normal people to go out and see what it is. So my thing is always reading books and reading. And even though I couldn't speak, I could read. And so with reading, I start to going into library, New York Public Library, and they gave me a voice so I can, talk about aphasia there. But this was one-on-one. This is just me. And so from one thing to another, with Dr. Barbara Kessler and Steve Kessler, they invited me to join the board and doing outreach, the advocacy. What I did, I also find, as I am I'm originally from Spain, my family, but I speak Spanish. And I was like, why there's nobody's talking about aphasia in English? And so with the board, with National Aphasia Association, they gave me a platform. And with that, so now National Aphasia Association has a reach from Argentina all the way up the Americas and into Spain right now. And so that's my work now, and we're doing it for awareness. The key campaign is from education and awareness.
Yes.
And so, yes. And also this last year, I also joined the DEI committee in National Aphasia Association, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's why it's such a big thing to expand the platform in Spanish and in English in the United States specifically, but also in South America. People speak Spanish and they have the same resources and situations that we need, all of us. Yeah.
Well, Doreen, I thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. What a powerful story. A story that reminds each and every one of us, as I listen to you attentively, how sometimes things can happen unexpected in life, such as tragedies, loss, suffering, but it's not what happened, it's what you're going to do with what happened. And having a will and a mind and a drive to say, I'm going to go forward and make the best out of this situation, and then take it a step further and say, not only for me, but I want to use this and help be an instrument to educate and motivate the masses all over the world or all over in my community. And that's what it's all about. Each of us using our individual experiences, be it good or be it tragic, to find hope in it and find what can we do to turn that into something positive. And I thank you for that. I thank you for your advocacy. I thank you for your strength and your courage. And how can we learn more from your organization? Can you please give us your website? We're going to put it up on our site here and make sure we let our people know in case they want to get involved or get more education on it before we let you go.
I encourage everyone to please reach out and go into www.aphasia.org. Simple, aphasia.org. And you will find resources for students, for professionals, and also for the community itself in there. And so also, I just wanted to say a little point at the end. This is 35th year of National Aphasia Association, and in honor of these amazing work that they've been doing for so many years, there is a campaign for donation. And so there's for $35, it would be a wonderful thing to reach out and help people that need everything too, all resources that we have here.
And Doreen, thank you for that. And Living Your Life Without Limits is going to make sure we donate $35 on behalf of this campaign to raise public awareness.
Thank you.
Once again, I thank you for coming on today and helping me spread education and advocacy regarding aphasia, because it is so important that people are informed on when this happens. Life is not over, but also recognize that life is so precious and valuable that we don't want to take anything for granted. But listening to your story, it not only motivates, but it inspires that you can still live quality of life, even if you develop a disability later on in life. Yes. So once again, I salute you, Miss Doreen. And I want to thank my viewer and listening audience for tuning in each week to Living Your Life Without Limits. My goal is to bring you information that's going to help you to live a productive and valuable life while you're here on this earth. Because guess what? You are worth each and everything you deposit into yourself. And it starts with you embracing that. So remember, family, to love yourself. Take care of yourself, because guess what? You are absolutely worth it. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.